You might believe it takes months, maybe even years, of visualization, effort, and inner work to shift your reality. That breakthroughs are rewards you earn only after enduring enough struggle. That alignment only comes once every spiritual box is ticked and every practice mastered. But what if I told you the real shift, the actual quantum leap, happens in an instant, so subtle, most people completely overlook it. There's a hidden pattern, almost invisible, unless you know where to look, that shows up right before someone's entire life pivots. Not when they push harder, not when they double down, but when something within them finally stops forcing, stops questioning, stops chasing. That's the moment the field reacts. In this video, we're uncovering the exact frequency that triggers a quantum shift and why simplicity is the one thing the ego resists most. You'll see why energetic skill far outweighs strategy, the signals that you're about to jump timelines, and why breakdown isn't failure, it's initiation. But first, let's begin with something you've felt, even if you've never put it into words: the resistance to ease. That moment where life starts flowing and fear creeps in. That moment when deep inner certainty meets your mind's demand for proof. You've felt it. The pull between your soul's clarity and your ego's survival reflex. We live in a culture addicted to struggle. Effort is worshipped. Complexity is glamorized. If it feels too simple, it's dismissed. If it comes too easily, it feels undeserved. But the quantum field doesn't respond to how hard you grind. It responds to how clear and clean your frequency is. And clarity almost always reveals itself through simplicity. Here's the challenge. Simplicity threatens the false self, because if it's really simple, then what was all that struggle for? If it's simple, what happens to the identity you built around striving, fixing, proving? Simplicity dissolves the drama, and when there's no drama left, there's nothing left to hide behind. This is why so many unconsciously sabotage their own transformation. Not because they're broken, but because the stillness of truth feels foreign. They expect thunder, they get quiet, they want spectacle. The field answers with silence. And it's in that silence that the shift actually lives. The quantum field is always mirroring you. It isn't waiting for your next affirmation, vibrating with who you are right now. The instant you stop forcing and simply become, the loop changes. You stop depending on external proof to validate your inner state. You stop reshaping your energy to fit your circumstances. Instead, you hold your tone regardless of what's happening. That's the real difference between manifesting and shifting. Manifesting often implies calling in what you lack. Shifting is embodying the version of you that already exists in another now. The only thing standing between you and that timeline isn't time or effort, it's frequency. So ask yourself, what if your shift isn't difficult, only unfamiliar? What if you've been trying to think your way into a new timeline instead of feeling your way there? What if the true block isn't your outer reality, but your attachment to complexity? In the next part of this video, we'll expose why most people can't stabilize their signal and how hidden blind spots create static the field can't read. You'll see the subtle ways you resist resonance and how to broadcast in a way the universe finally hears. Because this simplicity, it's the portal. And once you feel it, everything changes. If the quantum shift is so simple, Why do so few experience it? Why does it feel like some unseen barrier keeps you replaying the same emotional loops even when you know better? Why does progress stall right when it seems closest? Because simplicity asks for something far more daunting than efforted asks for awareness. When things are complicated, there's always something else to blame: the method, the tool, the process. When it's simple, there's nowhere to hide. The focus lands squarely on you, and suddenly you're left asking, am I truly ready to shift? Let's begin with what blocks most people from holding the right frequency: blind spots. These aren't flaws, they're patterns too close to see. Emotional reflexes you've normalized, stories you've told so often they now feel absolute. Yet the quantum field doesn't respond to what you consciously wanted, responds to what you unconsciously are. You might be visualizing abundance while your frequency is still coded in lack, not because you're failing, but because you've never questioned your default signal. So pause and feel into this. What's your energetic broadcast when no one's around? What's the emotional atmosphere of your inner world when you're not doing the work? That's your real frequency. That's what the field hears. This is where the first true skill emerges: self-awareness. And not just journaling or reflection. I mean the kind of awareness that watches thoughts arise in real time, without judgment or fixing. Awareness that catches you in a survival reaction and refuses to collapse into it. The next stage is even deeper: radical responsibility. This is where your frequency clears. Not self-blame, ownership, claiming every signal you emit, even the ones you'd rather deny. When you shift from, why is this happening to me, to what is this teaching me about my resonance, the field rearranges itself around you. Victimhood is loud but incoherent. Ownership is quiet but magnetic. And then comes the amplifier: accountability states. These are vibrational anchors you return to no matter what unfolds. Most wait for reality to confirm their state. Quantum shifters hold their state until reality has no choice but to align. Accountability means you show up for your frequency even when it's inconvenient, even when evidence says you're delusional, even when nothing seems to move. Finally, the paradox: detachment from perception. We're trained to judge everything. This is good, that's bad. This means success, that means failure. But what if your lowest point is actually the precursor to your breakthrough? What if what feels like collapse is your old frequency disintegrating? Detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop labeling. You let the energy move without assigning meaning, because the field isn't linear. The darkest moment might be the exact calibration needed for light to land. This isn't just about thinking differently, it's about holding your vibration as if it's the only reality. And yes, it takes courage. It's easier to hide behind methods and mantras than to sit in stillness and admit, I've been looping because I keep viewing life through outdated stories. The quantum shift is not complex, it's precise. It slices straight through illusion, exposes the parts of you addicted to chaos, and asks, are you finally ready to let them rest? In the next part, we'll explore that charged, almost electric tension right before the shift, the point where your old identity crumbles and your new timeline is within reach. Most misread it as failure. But if you know the signs, you'll see it for what it is: the threshold of your breakthrough. Stay close. What comes next is where the old timeline ends and your true frequency begins. There's a moment so unsettling and often misread that almost always arrives right before a genuine quantum shift. It's that in-between space where the old timeline loosens its grip, but the new one hasn't fully landed. You feel suspended, as though standing in a corridor between two realities. The past no longer fits. The future hasn't formed, and everything inside you is urging you to do something. Yet, in truth, you're right at the edge. This space is sacred, even if it doesn't feel like it. It often shows up as confusion, exhaustion, misalignment, or even despair. You might feel like you're unraveling, like the path you trusted suddenly dissolved, like your vision is collapsing rather than manifesting. Without understanding, it's easy to misinterpret this moment as a reason to retreat, to shrink, to push harder, or worse, to question yourself entirely. But here's what's real. This isn't collapse, it's calibration. Before any quantum leap, your field must release its current coherence pattern. Picture it like tuning off one radio frequency before landing on another. There's always static between stations. That static feels like disorientation, emotional noise, and the urge to escape, but it's not danger, it's a threshold. Your old frequency cannot sustain your next chapter. That's why it feels like everything is unraveling. What's truly happening? The energy that held your old identity together is breaking apart. The beliefs, behaviors, and energetic cycles that shaped who you've been are losing their charge. And without that charge, your ego has nothing to hold on to. So, it resists. It stirs fear, doubt, agitation, not because you've failed, but because the ego is desperate to pull you back into the familiar loop. This exact point right before the shift is where most people turn back. Not because the field says no, but because they mistake transformations. Friction for failure, the truth. If it feels unsteady, you're close. If it feels uncertain, you're almost there. What you're really sensing is your frequency shedding everything that no longer resonates. This is why detachment is essential. Judge this transitional space too soon, and you'll brand it as wrong. You'll call it stuck. You'll treat it as evidence that nothing's working. And the moment you do, you re-anchor yourself in the old pattern. But if you stay centered, not through force, but through awareness, something beneath the surface begins to reorder itself. The chaos eases. The edges blur. You stop pushing forward and instead begin to feel forward. That's the point where magnetism ignites, not through effort, but because you've stopped leaking energy into resistance. Born of coherence, when you choose presence over panic, that's when the quantum answers. So what's required in this space? Nothing in the usual sense. It's not the time to force, hustle, or fix. It's the time to attune. Breathe into the discomfort. Notice the narratives. Loosen your grip on the timeline. Your role isn't to push reality, it's to become ready for it. That's the real shift, not control, but surrendering fully into the vibration that already holds what you want next. We'll break down exactly how the quantum reads your signal and why what you think you're broadcasting may not be what's truly being received. We'll also explore how to purify your resonance so you align with the life already waiting in the field. You don't need more effort, you need steadiness. Hold your signal even when nothing adds up, especially then. That's the doorway. That's when reality bends. That's when your shift locks in. Let's talk signals. But here's the part few understand. Your energy is always transmitting, whether you intend it or not. And what's transmitting isn't your intention, it's your embodiment. You can say you're ready. You can script affirmations, meditate, visualize every detail of your dream life. But if beneath all that, your signal carries doubt, urgency, fear, or performance, that's what the field mirrors. It means your inner world is the only true strategy. Your nervous system is the instrument tuning your reality, and coherence, the alignment of thought, feeling, and state, is the exact frequency the field locks onto. Coherence doesn't demand perfection. It demands presence, like tuning a radio. If you're slightly off station, you get static. Maybe a word, maybe a faint melody, but it's fractured, distorted. Your field works the same. When you hold contradictory signals, desiring but not, trusting, asking but doubting, saying but not embodying, the message scrambles. And scrambled signals create only one result: delay. This is why quantum shifts aren't about more doing. They're about refining your signal. Cleaning doesn't mean suppressing feelings. It means syncing them. It's claiming your energy so completely that there's no gap between what you intend and what you are. But here's the trap. Most people try to force coherence. They overthink their vibration, dissect every block, micromanage their emotions like a task list. But true coherence can't be managed. It emerges from surrender. You cannot fake resonance. You can't analyze your way into magnetic alignment. You feel into it by resting in who you already are. So, what generates that? Clarity, stillness, honesty, choosing to embody what you desire before it arrives, not performatively, not delusionally, but in calm certainty. This is the signal the quantum field answers. I already am. I already hold. I already resonate. Not because it's visible yet, but because it's real. From there, your field reorganizes. No pushing, no strain, just attunement. As your nervous system learns to trust your signal, it stabilizes, not as a plea, not as performance, but as acknowledgement. Say it not to convince, but to confirm. Because when you speak from embodiment, the field listens. And when the field listens, reality moves. Now, we'll decode exactly how the field mirrors you, how focus directs its flow. Actually shift reality. You shift into the version of yourself that already lives there, and that shifted starts now. Field truly responds. Because if you've ever wondered why some intentions seem to manifest effortlessly while others drift endlessly in possibility, the answer is simple. The field doesn't answer desire. It mirrors your prevailing frequency. And that frequency is driven by one thing: where your attention consistently rests. Let's break this down. The quantum field is limitless. Every version of you already exists within it. Every potential outcome is encoded, waiting not to be built, but to be observed. The observer effect in quantum physics tells us particles only solidify into matter when measured, when focused upon, collapsing from wave into form. This means your attention is far from passive, it's creative. It determines which version of reality comes forward. This is why quantum shifting isn't about controlling results. It's about selecting them with focus and sustaining that selection with your state. Most people don't realize how how fractured their attention is. They affirm abundance in the morning, spiral into scarcity by afternoon, then fall asleep, tangled in doubt. It simply reflects it. That's why results feel inconsistent, delayed, unclear. But when your focus sharpens, when you hold your vision without chasing, needing, or second-guessing it, triggers something profound. The potential timeline begins to align around you. Opportunities, connections, decisions even, small ones, synchronize effortlessly, not because you're forcing it, but because resonance organizes reality. You aren't making reality bend, you're merging with the version that already hums at your frequency. Here's the subtle truth few talk about. You don't shift through thoughts alone. You shift through identity. Your conscious mind may want the change, but your subconscious identity, the deeper emotional current you operate from, might still be tuned to the old frequency. And if that's true, the field mirrors the identity every time, not the thought. This is why inner work is sacred, not as a list of tasks, but as a remembering. It's already here, waiting for permission to lead. Ask yourself this: who am I being right now? Not in performance, not in effort, but in energy, in tone, in truth. Because the version of you already living the life you've imagined isn't waiting in the distance, it's available right now. You don't reach for it, you receive it. In our final chapter, we'll anchor this journey fully. You'll see how to integrate quantum shifting as a natural rhythm, not something you do, but something you live. We'll uncover the final key to holding your new timeline steady, so it doesn't flicker in and out, but becomes your baseline reality. Stay close. The shift isn't ahead of you, it's already underway. Here's what's clear now. The quantum field doesn't react to effort. It answers coherence. It doesn't reflect what you claim you want, it reflects who you consistently are. So simple, in fact, that the ego often dismisses it, overcomplicates it, or overlooks it entirely. But those who truly shift, those who inhabit new, and the reason so many fail to stabilize their shift isn't because they're wrong, but because they don't remain long enough in the signal for it to lock in. So, let's state it clearly. You don't quantum shift by doing more. You shift by aligning more purely, more steadily, more authentically. It doesn't mean you plaster joy over grief. It means you hold space for the full range of your experience without collapsing your identity back into the old. That is emotional mastery. That is energetic steadiness. That is what the field mirrors. You're not here to run after the shift. You're here to embody the one who shifts naturally. And when you see that, life stops feeling like a pursuit and becomes a reflection. That's when you walk differently. Your presence enters a room before you do. You speak less, but are heard more. You ask less, but receive more. Not from manipulation, because you've become the field in harmony with itself. This is why true teachers of manifestation don't hand you methods, they transmit states. They help you feel what's ancient, what's already alive within you. They don't add, they reveal. So here's your invitation. Remember who you already are, here and now. The timeline is real, the one where you're calm, clear, magnetic, certain. Not because the world is perfect, but because you've stopped outsourcing your energy to it. Let this be the identity you stabilize, not as performance, but as homecoming. And if you've reached this point, you already know this isn't just a video, it's a frequency. Something in you, subtle but undeniable, has already shifted. If you felt it resonated, subscribe, not just for the next video, but for the next version of you. Because this isn't just a channel, it's a signal. And every subscriber says to the field, I remember who I am, welcome back. You've always been the shift. Now, the field reflects it back.